Our top focus at this hour, Iran and the US. The first round of Iran-US talks in Oman produced no breakthrough. This was the first time the two sides sat across the table after the 12-day war in June last year. Neither side has now signaled any shift from its opening position. Both sides have agreed to meet again, but without a date. Now, as diplomacy is in limbo, threat of a war is still growing. Iran has ruled out giving up uranium enrichment, insisting it will not be intimidated by the threat of war, hinting at the military build-up in the Arabian Sea and in the Iranian Gulf. Now, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has expressed doubts that the US side is taking renewed negotiations seriously. Iran has issued notifications to carry out ballistic missile tests. The IRGC has escalated its psychological warfare campaign. An AI-generated propaganda video depicts a catastrophic attack on the USS Abraham Lincoln, the carrier strike group which has been deployed near Iran. The video shows Iran's Fateh hypersonic missile splitting the massive carrier cleanly in two, sending F-35 fighter jets and crew members into a fiery sea. Then, in another warning, a banner unveiled in central Tehran's Palestine Square threatens ballistic missile strikes on Tel Aviv and other targets. The map marks key sites of attack. US has also not ruled out military action. Time and again, we've heard the US president say they are locked and loaded, ready to go. US President Trump described the talks as very good in the recent and said Iran wants a deal very badly. But he added they know the consequences if they don't make a deal. The consequences are very steep. The US already has a massive military presence around Iran. In the West, it has bases in Qatar and Iraq. Reports say it can launch fighter jets, including F-15s, the Strike Eagles. And this is from their bases in West Asia. It has boosted its air defenses in view of any Iranian missile attack. US also has a military presence in Jordan, UAE and Saudi Arabia. And these existing bases have been given a massive boost by the arrival of the naval fleet led by the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier group. Bahrain is also a center of US naval power in the region, with destroyers and combat ships docked there. Washington's lead negotiators, envoy Steve Witkoff and President's son-in-law himself, Jared Kushner, they were on board the USS Abraham Lincoln as recently as Saturday. And sources familiar with the details said the visit was intended to send a message to Iran that Trump has other options if the negotiations fail. In the midst of all of this, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has moved up his visit to Washington. He will be meeting President Trump to discuss the negotiations with Iran on the key date of 11th of February. Now, why is this date important and why is it crucial? This is the same day when Iran will be celebrating its Revolution Day. This is the anniversary of the Iranian Revolution. This is the day in 1979 when the Shah was deposed. Authorities traditionally grant sentence reductions or releases to selected prisoners on this day. This is what happens in Iran on an annual basis on the 11th of February. But this time, Iran's judiciary chief has said that the detained protesters who were detained during those widespread protests across Iran since the beginning of this year, they would be excluded from annual pardons issued to mark the anniversary on the 11th of February. All right, for more on this, I'm now being joined by Dr. Meir Javed Anfar from Tel Aviv. He's a lecturer of Iranian politics at Reichman University in Israel, a West Asia analyst and a co-author of The Nuclear Sphinx of Tehran. Dr. Javed Anfar, thank you so much for making time for us and joining us here. As I mentioned in this report, not much was achieved in those diplomatic talks. Yes, the ice was broken. They were sitting across the table once again, but no resolutions achieved. At the same time, a lot of signaling is coming from both the sides. Of course, proper military presence from the US, but Iran also on its end is not holding back from ensuring that a message is sent out to the US that they will not sit quietly if US approaches them in a military manner. Iran says uranium enrichment will not stop, missile program is non-negotiable, and they're not scared of US military buildup in the region. Is time for diplomacy over?
No, not at all. I think this is the beginning. This is we've only just had one round of negotiations that have taken place, and miracles cannot be expected. Although there is disappointment in Israel and in certain parts of the US politics that it is possible that the Iranians will drag on these negotiations, and this is something that the region cannot afford, especially Israel and other countries who are worried about Iran's nuclear program. They are worried about Iran's missile program. And let's not forget also that President Trump promised help to the Iranian people on January 23rd. He said help is on the way to the protesting Iranians. They have not seen any help from the United States. Therefore, there is a lot of expectations, but at the same time, we have to be cognizant of the fact that there's just been one round of negotiations. We have to wait and see what happens in the next round. There have been press reports pertaining to US demands that in the next round of negotiations, the Iranians show their position, show what they're willing to compromise on, and the US is willing to do the same, meaning that the Americans, although they don't want diplomacy to be stopped now, they want to continue with it. At the same time, they don't want these talks to drag on and to be just about talks. They want concrete negotiation positions from the beginning.
Understood. Dr. Javed Anfar, you mentioned don't expect a miracle. It's the first round of talks. I understand. I take your point. But will it take anything less than a miracle at this point when the key issues that the US has raised are the red lines for Iran when it comes to their nuclear enrichment, uranium enrichment, pardon me, and when it comes to their missile program? And along with this, Iran is encircled. Is an encircled Iran gearing up for war? What option is left for Iran?
Well, from what we see, the Islamic Republic has brutally cracked down against its own people. We've just witnessed the biggest massacre of Iranians in recent history by their own leadership. There is concern in Iran by many people that the talks will just release some of the sanctions against the regime, but the regime will continue to crack down against the people. There is also this demand by people in this region that Iran, for example, Iran's nuclear program and missile program are a danger to the security of the regime. This is one of the main reasons. It's very important to note. This is one of the main reasons why countries that are neighboring Iran have agreed to host the US, because they feel threatened by the policies of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Of course, Iran has a right to defend itself. Every country has a right to defend itself. However, the aggressive policies of the Islamic Republic have brought it to this point whereupon no country in the Middle East is complaining that the US has brought such a huge armada because they want a solution to Iran's nuclear program and missile program. They see it as a threat. The policies of the Islamic Republic have presented these programs as a threat. For example, when they write on a missile that Israel must be wiped off the face of the earth in Hebrew, then that is not a defensive posture. Now, will Iran cross those red lines, as you quite rightly said? It is difficult to know. At the moment, from what the Iranian leadership is saying, they will not agree to cease enrichment. They will not agree to ship enrichment abroad. They will not agree to any of the missiles being curtailed in terms of their range. They have not, and this is their position. Will this change? I don't know yet, but we cannot deny the fact that the Islamic Republic of Iran is under tremendous pressure abroad. Or more importantly, it is under tremendous pressure at home. The anniversary of the revolution is coming, and the leadership has never been more unpopular among the people of Iran.
And Dr. Javed Anfar, also wanted to understand very quickly, you mentioned that neighboring countries, they have welcomed US deployments in the region, and they've been there. The US Armada is welcomed owing to Iran's posturing. But on the other side, there is a certain amount of scare in the region because they are within the immediate ring of fire, if you would like to call it that. Even in the last time, in June last year, the final strike happened onto Qatar, owing to the Al Udeid base, which is there, the largest US positioning in the region. But given the signaling that is coming out from Iran's side, February 11th, that's the day Netanyahu decides to meet Trump. And that's also the day this year, Iran is saying we will not be offering any pardons, which is customary on February 11th, a crucial day for the Islamic Revolution back from 1979. How do you see that signaling? Is it just preparing ground for the negotiations to go in Iran's favor, or is there more to it?
You know, I'm not sure that Prime Minister Netanyahu chose February 11th because it's the anniversary of the Islamic Republic. I'm not even sure that Prime Minister Netanyahu is aware that this is the anniversary of the Islamic Republic. He is going to the United States because of concern over Iran's missile program, which is increasing in its capacity in terms of the production line, the number of missiles that the Islamic Republic can manufacture can overwhelm Israel's defenses in a future war, because we have an anti-missile system that fires missiles at the incoming missiles. However, if the number of incoming missiles is overwhelmingly larger than the number of missiles that we have, especially if they are older, for example, if 50 missiles are being pointed at one place, it is going to be very difficult to stop all of them, and this is very dangerous. What will happen with Iran? The question is, we have to see some flexibility from the Iranian side. I have never seen it before. People in Iran before wanted a deal with the United States because they want Iranian civilians, because they wanted sanctions. But sir, we cannot under any circumstances rule out and ignore the huge damage that the crackdown, the massive crackdown of the Iranian people has caused among them. And this is, I think, another issue that is going to make it more difficult to reach a deal with the Islamic Republic, because it feels threatened at home and abroad, and it feels that its position, its room for maneuver is very small.
Understood. Dr. Javed Anfar, I'm a little tempted to ask one last question before we run out of time. The last time Prime Minister Netanyahu met Donald Trump was in Florida, and along with that, in the same timeline, there was a spike in the protests in Iran. Do you find any parallel events taking place after this meeting?
Now, I to be honest with you, this is a homegrown Iranian, organic Iranian protest by the people of Iran who want to determine their future. They want a strong Iran, but at the same time, they want an Iran where they can have a voice, where the economy is managed, where the country with the world's second largest gas reserves and the fourth largest oil reserves does not have electricity cuts, does not have water cuts. The opposite, that the country is well managed, that the people feel that they want to live in their own country, that they're not oppressed and they're not shot on the streets just because they're protesting. And I think this is the biggest reason, not because of America, not because of Israel. The Islamic Republic of Iran has been in charge since 1979. It has agency, it has responsibility, it has mismanaged the country terribly, and the people of Iran want it changed. They tried through the ballot box time and time again. It didn't work. This is why they've poured onto the streets.
Dr. Mir Javed Anfar, thank you so much for taking all my questions. And as of now, we'll need to wait and watch how this one goes. As you mentioned, don't expect a miracle in the first meeting, but there are going to be more meetings as both sides are keen on continuing with the diplomatic talks. Thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast.